Morning everybody. Today we're going to learn about Odes, which is a very nice type of poem. So what I first want you to do is I want you to find an object in your house that you absolutely love. This object can be anything. It can be your favorite book, a photograph, a toy, food, even your pet. Then what I want you to do is I want you to take a photo of your object, and then you're going to include that on the slide that's entitled My Object. At the bottom you can see the Minion's favorite objects is Minecraft game, some food, he seems to like McDonald's, which would explain his large waistline, books and sport. So here's an example of my favorite object. This is my reading chair, which I have out on my balcony, which not only I love, but Astrid seems to love it as well, because we tend to fight over who gets to sit in it. So on this slide, you're going to add a photo of your favorite object. Now, I want you to describe your object. Find some words to describe it. For example, what are the best qualities of this object? How does it make you feel? How would you describe what this object looks like? How does it feel in terms of touch? Does it make a sound? What does it sound like? Is there a smell? What does it smell like? Then on the slide called Describing My Object, I want you to write some descriptions. So let's have a look at my example. I said my reading chair. It's like a really nice sea blue color. It's quite soft and squishy when you sit down. It's very comfortable. It's a round shape. In terms of sound, when you sit down on it, it makes this gentle whoosh sound because there's a lot of air and it's very poofy. And also, when I sit in it, I can hear the wind in the trees and the birds singing because it's outside on my balcony. It feels very silky because it's quite smooth. It's made of a very silky material, and it's very comforting and gentle. In terms of smell, it doesn't really have a smell, but because I'm outside, I kind of smell my plants and nature, and maybe the cats if they're running past to come eat my plants. On this slide, I want you to include your descriptions of your object. Okay, now let's link this to what we did last week in terms of figurative language. How can you use figurative language to compare your object to something else? What metaphor could I use to describe my object? Okay, what about personification? What human characteristics can I give my object? What about a simile? Okay, on the slide, my figurative language. Oh, I just noticed a spelling mistake. I'll change that. Sorry. Write your figurative language on the slide. Let's look at my example. I said simile. Well, it's as soft as a cloud. So here you can see I'm comparing the chair to a cloud because they're both quite soft. And I'm using as. Personification, oh my word, that's an easy one. It feels like it's hugging me whenever I sit down in it. So obviously the chair can't hug me, it's not a person, but I'm giving it human characteristics. Metaphor, well, it's a marshmallow. It's soft, it's squishy. And I've even added some alliteration, which you don't have to do, but why not, since we've learnt about it. I said it's soft, silky, and squishy. So there you can see the repetition of the S sound. So on this slide, you're going to write down your figurative language. You need to have at least a metaphor, a simile, and personification. Okay? Now, we're going to write an ode. So we're going to use all of this information to write an ode to our object. But what on earth is an ode? So, an ode is a type of poem that we use to express our thoughts and feelings about a certain object or person. But usually these are positive feelings. So it's usually used to celebrate, praise, or glorify something or someone. So you're celebrating something. You're going like, oh wow, this is so amazing because of blah, blah, blah. Now, in terms of structure, ode, unlike a limerick, an ode doesn't really have a very specific structure. Okay, it can be a few lines, it can be lots of lines, it can be one verse or lots of verse, but it must include figurative language like metaphor, simile, and personification. We're going to do an example of an ode that does have a reasonably set out structure, but that's just to give you an introduction. Rhythm and rhyme. So you get different types of odes, okay? So traditional odes have a very strict rhythm and rhyme, but not all odes have to have this. So modern odes don't need to have strict rhythm and rhyme. So your instructions are, I want you to go through the examples of odes and answer these questions. What is the object in the ode that's being praised? So what is it to? Then I want you to identify 2 to 3 examples of figurative language in the poem, explaining what this object is being compared to. Okay, so I've done the first one for you as an example. So the first one is Ode to Music. Oh, the beautiful music notes flowing through my ears. Its soothing rhythm calms all stress and fears. The beat of the music is alive as can be, so open your heart and let your music free. Many types of music, many different people. We all have our favorites, possibly the Beatles. Music is just something we can't live without, for rhythm is what life is about. A tool to concentration, a tool of de-stress. Without my music, life is a mess. Music is your friend. Why don't you be its? You never know how much it could benefit. Just in terms of this poem, look at the rhyme scheme. So if you look at the last words in each line, ears, fears, be free. People, beetle, without, about. Distress, mess, its benefit. So just to remind you of rhyme scheme, we use the letters, and when you have words at the end of the line that rhyme, you give it the first letter of the alphabet. So ears would be A. Now you go fears. Does fears rhyme with ears? Yes, it does. So we're also going to call that A. Next line, line 3, B. Does that rhyme with ears and fears? No. So we're going to call that B. Free, does it rhyme with ears, fears, or B? Yes, free rhymes with B. So it's also going to be a letter B. So our rhyme scheme is A, A, B, B. And as we carry on, it goes C, C, D, D, E, E, F, F. Now, in terms of the terms we use, this poem has 3 stanzas. But let's go back to our figurative language. The object, what is the object being praised? Well, music. It's talking all about how wonderful music is. So let's look at 3 examples of figurative language, and I need to explain what the object is being compared to. So I said a metaphor, music is your friend, and that happens in line here. Music is your friend, the second last line. Okay, and music is being compared to a friend. Not very difficult. Then personification. Its soothing rhythm calms all stress and fears. Okay, all stress and fears. That's in the second line. Well, music can't really do that because it's just an object. It's just a thing, right? So it's not a person. But here I'm saying that it is calming me like a person could calm me. So I'm using a human characteristic for a non-human thing. And then finally, metaphor. He says life is a mess. Is. So we're not comparing it using like or as. If it was life is like a mess, then that would be a simile. But this is a metaphor. Now, when you are then going to do this one, Ode to my bed. Oh, my beloved bed, how I love to fall into you each night after a stressful day. You are still there with open arms and welcoming smile. Thank you for everything. Thank you with all my heart. Aye, there's a spelling mistake in that one too. My apologies. So, answer these questions when you go through the slides. And here's another one. Oh, chocolate, you are the sweetest of all treats, texture as soft and smooth as silk, a ball of happiness on my tongue. My heart smiles with every taste. Oh, how I adore you. and then you're going to answer these questions. Okay, now moving on to the basic structure of an ode. There's a simple structure that we can use to start writing it. So the title would be Ode to, and then you'd have your object. Okay, so it's Ode to chocolate, Ode to my bed, Ode to music in our examples. Then, in the first line, you could describe it using a comparative or superlative adjective. Now, on this slide, I've included a hyperlink if you're not sure what a comparative or superlative adjective is. But basically, it's an adjective where you're comparing two or more things. So you're going to say, let's say, for example, my plant is big, but my flower is bigger than my plant, but a tree is the biggest of all. So bigger than is a comparative because you're comparing two, and the biggest is the superlative. It's the Superman, it's the most. Okay, then line 2, you describe your object using a simile. Line 3, describe it using a metaphor. Line 4, describe it using personification. And then line 5 is easy. You just go, oh, and then you write in your object, how I adore you. Okay, you don't have to use the word adore. You could also use how I love you, whatever. You can use a synonym if you want. So let's have a look. What I want you to do is I want you to use this suggested structure to write an ode to your object. So if you're feeling particularly inspired, you could even write more than one stanza using this structure. Or you could include more metaphor, more personification. It's fine. As long as at least one stanza uses that structure, I'm happy. And then write your ode on the Google slide called My Ode. Now, let's have a look at my example for my reading chair. Ode to my reading chair. You are the most comfortable chair in the world. You feel as soft as a cloud, a sea blue, silky, squishy marshmallow that whooshes when I sit. You hug me whenever I rest to read a book. Oh, reading chair, how I adore you. Okay, so here you can see my title, Ode to, and then I've written there, my reading chair. The first line has a superlative, most comfortable. The second one, my simile, I'm saying it's as soft as a cloud. I'm comparing the chair to a cloud using as. Then in line 3, I've included quite a lot. I have alliteration, sea blue, silky, squishy. Then I've also said I have a metaphor. I'm saying it is a squishy marshmallow. Okay. Then in the second last line, line 4, I have personification. You hug me whenever I read to rest a book. And hopefully you've noticed I also have alliteration there, rest and read, the repetition of the R sound. And then finally the end, I just have my oh reading chair, how I adore you. Okay, so this is pretty simple. It's not that complicated. You are then going to write your ode on this slide. So this slide is available for you on the Google Classroom, so you need to make sure that you answer all those questions and then that you write your ode. And then we will share our odes with each other. Okay? Have fun!